Hello, hello, my friends and people out there. We are here, you know, that we believe that on the day you were born, God decided that the world cannot exist without you. And therefore, the value we give to you is like anything that will help you to fulfill your potential, to maximize and fulfill your mission and shine your light and spark on the world. And I realized, you know, Rami and I, when we researched, we realized that people really impact by their emotion. And I said, you know what? I have to bring an expert of emotional intelligence. So I invited our friend, Regina Bryan. She is an excellent expert and she runs assessment and it really help you tap into your emotional intelligence so you can like take off and like do even much more with the resources you already have. So hi, Regina, say hi to everyone.
Hi, Naomi. Hi, everyone. It is so great to be here with you today, Naomi. First of all, I always have a great time when I'm with you. And second of all, I love how you always start out so many conversations, so many interviews with the day you were born, God decided the world could no longer
Cannot exist without you, right?
Could not exist without you. When the first time you said that, I was interviewing you for my show. I thought it was one of the most beautiful things I had ever heard. So thank you for always starting with that.
Regina, you know, I call you a queen, Regina.
You
are so, you know what, like what I like about you is that you live the way you preach. In other words, whatever you help other people, you are always so emotional intelligence. You are so kind and sweet to people. You are always like meet them where they are. So tell us your secret so we can like model you, right? NLP is all about modeling. So let's model Regina.
Well, you know, Naomi, I thought something you just said was interesting about our emotions. And I have to start off with this, that life is an emotional journey. We are not creatures of logic, even though sometimes we like to think we are. We are creatures of emotion. You and I, believe it or not, we have hundreds of emotions a day. And we can either manage them or be at the mercy of them. And the quality of our lives, I mean, think about the quality of our lives, our relationships, our work, really comes down to how well we manage our emotions. And so this is just work I'm interested in because we're emotional beings, you know?
Wow. Yeah. I love what you said. We either manage them or we are in the mercy of them. My gosh, it's so true, you know? And you know, I play with words. So when you said mercy,
I love that you do that.
So I came, the M&M, you know, like, it's like, right? You see the M&M chocolate, right? M&M in his mercy and finish the whole package. Yeah. Or because someone made me mad that day, or I manage and control my emotion, right? So
that is really good. That is really good. And that's like the core piece of emotional intelligence, just what you said. We're either managing our emotions or we're at the mercy of them. And Naomi, what a brilliant example you just gave, you know, because we all know because of stress and family and friends that sometimes we are subject, I know I have been on occasion, subject to that emotional eating. And that is a simple, yet it's a powerful example of really emotional intelligence. It's a beautiful example because we can all relate to that moment where, you know, you're eating because you're hungry and you're kind of managing yourself well. I'm just going to have, you know, just a few M&Ms, just a few potato chips. And then before you know it, you've eaten them all. That's because you became at the mercy of your emotions.
And then you feel guilty about it,
and
right?
Then you feel guilty. And I just love that example because we can all relate to that, right? I mean, we've all had those moments where we felt very much in control of ourselves. And we've also probably had a lot of moments where we felt very out of control, where we couldn't manage ourselves well. So I love the M&M's example, Naomi. Well done.
And you know, I have a special relationship with chocolate, that's what you know. So so like,
that's what I'm going to say now too. I'm saying I have a very special relationship with chocolate.
And you know, as NLP trainer, you know, we always work with people that, you know, like their life is dictated, right? Not by what they really want and desire, but like what do they were pre-programmed. So that's why I brought you, because
Yeah.
I really think, right, that you can help people truly tap into and understand also the links that they have, you know, like why we act a certain way, how can we manage our emotions better so that like our, you know, everything will
Yeah.
change in their life, right?
Right. Just as much as I love that M&M example, the whole world got to see earlier this year, back in March, we all got to see this play out in real time when Will Smith, unfortunately, stormed the Oscar stage, slapping Chris Rock. I mean, that was the slap heard around the world.
Wow.
And okay, let's look at that for a moment, because I truly believe that's a teachable moment for all of us. Now, I have always loved Will Smith. I grew up watching him on TV, right? So the way I know him, because I don't know him personally, I really adore him. I love him, loved his movies, and I still do.
Of course, yeah.
What we saw on Oscar night was somebody whose emotions had overwhelmed him. We don't know the reason why, none of us do, but we saw that play out. And each of us have had moments like that, where somebody's cut you off in traffic and you really want to rear end them, but you don't. And all these other little things, like your boss says something, your spouse says something, and or you get that email or that text message and someone's kind of, going at you for some reason or another. I have a lot of friends in real estate, so they get a lot of unhappy text messages, and you want to just send that right back, but we don't. And I think what happened to Will Smith is something we can all relate to. And it doesn't make him a bad person. We don't now dislike Will Smith simply because of that one moment. But it's almost like, what can we take away from that moment? Because it did have consequences, as our emotions do. Even though we're good people, having these hard emotional moments, they do have consequences. And we all know from Will Smith, studios, the Academy, other people have distanced themselves a bit from him. And that can happen to all of us when we don't manage ourselves well. Even though we're good people, our emotions can take us out. And that's what happened to Will Smith on Oscar night.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's like this impulse of a moment that you are out of control. And,
Yeah.
like how we carry from, it can be even carried, not necessarily from the time you were born, even like it can be like from generation to generation, like things that you also, you were learning that like were pre-programmed to believe that, in this family, like this is how we behave.
That's so true. That's so true. And trauma and people who grew up in certain dynamics. You just said it, a mouthful with that, Naomi, that there can be a lot of things in our history that play a role in our emotions. But the good news for most of us, and that's why you and I do the work we do, is because there's hope, because there's good news. Now, unlike IQ can be heavily fixed. I mean, the research is there. I can read, I can get smarter, but IQ is really difficult to change in a significant way. EQ, however, EQ really can be cultivated and changed and developed in a significant way to improve our lives. So that's the good news about that yes, I think there are people, and we've had people in our own lives that just grew up with such pre-programming in their heads about this is how we do it in our family, or because we're women, or because we're this minority group. And I'm not trying to take away anything from that. But what you and I love to do, Naomi, is we love to inspire people and say, the mind is an incredible instrument. And the work you do in NLP and with EQ, they go so well together, don't they?
It's coming soon. It's coming soon.
Yeah. That there can be a lot of hope in that. And that's the good news about the work that I get to do in EQ, is to tell people this can be worked on, this can be changed and cultivated. So from wherever you are today, your EQ can rise. And that's what I love. And that's why I started the EQ project,
I love
to
it.
teach people and to tell people that.
And that's the exactly reason why I brought you here, because in any aspect of our life, when we carry this unwarranted negative emotion,
Yes.
these are not like, even if you try to repress them, they will come one day out, like as
yes, they will.
right? Like that we saw in the Oscar, right? So,
right.
and you know, like we both fight for, like, we don't want people to struggle, right? So like what you come and you say, hey, listen, you don't need to be on the mercy of your those emotional, you don't need to be the victim, you can actually break through it. And that's what you work with people to help them break it.
Exactly. I mean, we want to become emotional scientists, if you will. And instead of just thinking about our emotions in terms of good, bad, right, and wrong, if you take nothing away from today, please take this. Emotions serve a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
They all serve a purpose because they come to provide us information. So anytime you're feeling some type of emotion, it is to provide you with information. Emotions can lots of times help us know where to focus our attention. And they serve an incredible purpose in our lives if we look at them instead of judging ourselves and instead of getting swept away by them. So that would be, I think, the first starting point is when I was just having this conversation the other day, somebody said, I always react in the same way. I'm so tired of it. I always react. I always overreact. And I said, have you ever bothered to look at your emotions? And she didn't even know what I meant. And I said, perfect, because that's the starting point. What triggers you and why? We were never taught that as we grew up, Naomi. I mean, I think those of us of a certain age, we were never taught to sit down with your feelings and really understand what are the triggers behind them? What's causing you? And it might be, as we just said, the generational patterns of thinking or trauma. Whatever the reason is, we weren't taught that as kids. You know, a lot of us, again, if you're a certain age, you were just taught to stop crying or don't think that way, or don't pout, don't be sad. And really, our parents and our teachers, they were doing the best they knew how. But in reality, that created a situation in us where instead of looking at our emotions, investigating them, we're judging ourselves. So a lot of adults already are way behind in emotional language and understanding because of their childhood.
And you know what, I like it. I like that you break this pattern, because when you break this pattern, that's make not just the person happier and more in charge in any aspect of his life. It's also like, he's going to take responsibility also, and like be the, right, like manage his emotion. It doesn't mean that he suppress, he manage them in a beautiful, graceful way.
Great point. When we're talking about EQ, you're right, Naomi. We are not talking about suppressing and pushing emotions down, because they will rise up even worse. We are talking about just noticing and allowing the emotion. So it's not going overboard. And it's also, and a lot of people think that too. So Naomi, that was excellent, that I have to stuff my emotions down. Oh, no. That's almost worse than raging in the first place, or going overboard or overreacting, is that suppression. Because the more you suppress your emotions, the further away you get from really knowing what you're feeling and why. And I think that's another thing that we're seeing happen if you're over 40 in particular, and even older. You just weren't taught to deal with your emotions. We were taught to suppress them. And as adults, that becomes a coping mechanism for everything. I just won't feel it. I just won't talk about it. And we've got this whole generation and almost an entire culture of emotional illiterates. And it doesn't mean that people can't learn. It just means that they don't even have the tools yet or the understanding.
And the most I like about it, Regina, also is that once you change, you make the change and you manage it, it's, as I always say, it's like domino rally, or like a ripple effect. Everyone in your family, right? It can be, you can say this way, you say relationship, right? Like your career, like sometimes people say, I promise myself that tomorrow I'm going to video myself and I put it on TikTok or whatever. I have an important message to the world. All of a sudden, their friend call with like this bad mood or something, it triggers something in them. And before you know it, the day passed and they didn't do the video, right? So like, it's those impulses that like, it's like this question that I ask in one of my posts is like, do we really have freedom when we just live impulsively and spontaneously? No, right? That's the time where you would like grab this chocolate, right? Or the M&M, and you impulsively eat it. and you can say, okay, I have a freedom, right? But it's not real freedom. It's you don't have control, right? You are like in the mercy. Bring us back to the mercy.
That is totally the mercy.
So I'm really curious, Regina, like what kind of trigger you to bring it out, not just like taking care of course, of yours, like, and like, but like to bring it out to the people and like really share your wisdom.
I think for me, if I go back to my own childhood, I was an emotional wreck. I was one of these kids that just cried so easily. I don't even know why. And my poor mom and dad, they didn't even know why. I grew up very middle America. My dad was in the Navy. My mom stayed home when we were younger. I had two sisters. But I was just this kid that was really sensitive and I cried a lot. And I can definitely look back at that and say, okay, my emotions were managing me as a young person. And then a couple things happened to me as I met a gal in junior high, and she kind of brought out my ability to just be comfortable in my own skin. So when you change, people around you change, because having that relationship with someone who was so comfortable and so confident, that really helped me. And then I have to say also, when I was 12 years old, that's when Oprah Winfrey came on the scene with her national talk show. So I'm almost 12 years old, and I see someone like Oprah, and I'm observing her, and she has this way with people. And I just remember, even at 12 years old, thinking, I want to have this way with people that Oprah has. And I just decided that part of that is she has a way of bringing out the best in other people and managing her own emotions. She doesn't suppress them, because she cried a number of times, but she managed them, meaning she used them for positive good. She had this way of bringing out the best in herself and other people. And when we're living our lives at a high level of emotional intelligence, that's the result. That's the result, when you are actively bringing out the best in yourself, so much so that you're helping others around you do it. That's how you know where you are in terms of emotional intelligence.
It's amazing.
And yeah,
so if
I just knew then at 12 years old. At 12 years old, I thought, I want to be the person who's bringing out the best in myself and other people on a regular basis.
And let me tell you, you natural in that. Like it's amazing. Like, you're like a magnet, people see you and right away fall in love with you. You have that in you. It's amazing. And you always see the best in people anyway. And it's great that you give them the feeling, hey, listen. It's like it's almost like you have it in your mind. You don't need to be in that mercy, you're good, so yeah, so give us like a tip or two. So we went above the why. Now for sure anyone wants to be in control of their emotions, so they don't do things that they regret later, so they don't self-sabotage their success too. And we talked about like what brought you to it. So now like maybe what can we do about it, right? Like, so I know that you run those amazing assessment, and so tell us more about like what can we do about it, and then we can like
I think that most people probably think, oh, I'm fine, I'm doing okay, but who wants to just do okay? Who wants to have moments in their lives where they feel out of control? So there's absolutely some tools and some great resources. And so as the creator and founder of the EQ Project, we have an amazing assessment, Naomi. It's phenomenal. There's 4 different quotients that we evaluate. Self-recognition, self-management, social recognition, and social management are the 4 quotients. And it evaluates you, this assessment, on where you are right now. And it becomes, even if you disagree with it, because I would say that I probably agree with probably more than 90% of my own assessment. And all the people that I've had the pleasure of working with are all in the 90% as far as agreeing with their assessment. And it becomes this great starting point. So you can start to kind of tweezer out, where do I most want to grow? Because we all have something. And if it's just my ability to control myself from not overeating the M&Ms or the chips, or I want to reach goals, why am I not moving forward in certain goals? All of it really traces back to emotional intelligence. And the starting point is my own self-awareness. And that comes down to what triggers me and why. A lot of people miss the small, simple tool of journaling. I can promise you that I had a coaching client recently. She just started journaling. She's like, I used to journal in the past. It's not that big of a deal. And I said, We're going to journal. The things that have come into her awareness have been unreal since she has been on a path of consistent journaling the last couple of months. It's really helped her see some things differently. That's the heartbeat. That's the cornerstone of EQs. I got to know myself. And I got to share this one thing with you, Naomi. People think they're self-aware. So a lot of people kind of think, I don't need any help, personal growth, emotional intelligence. But if you've had the same goals in your life for a while, it doesn't matter what they are. If they're weight loss, I want to learn a language, I want to learn an instrument, I want to do better in my career. If you haven't been able to succeed for a while, what is that gap about? And why has it been around so long? And for most people, believe it or not, and I didn't believe this the first time I started learning this, it's that we have a gap in our own self-awareness. What else would stop me from fulfilling my own goal? And when you sit down with someone like myself that's a certified person in emotional intelligence, the assessment is just a beautiful starting point because it opens the conversation for where are the gaps and what is it that I really want and what's holding me back. So that assessment is like a foundational piece for anybody who wants to improve any part of their lives.
Amazing, amazing. Yeah, it's all started, as you said, in awareness. And like, I like the idea of the journal that you write, that you said, the journaling, because then you start to see the links between, like, why do I get headaches? That this day, oh my gosh, I was listening to the news, or I was triggered by this emotion, or right? Like, so you see those links and you go one and one. And then when you do as you said, the test, what's good about the test, even if you don't agree with it, the fact that you even answered and made you think about things that you normally don't think about, that's already make you more aware, and then you're like watching us, you're like catching yourself. You can
exactly. That's exactly right. It's already a huge win. Just sitting with the assessment and looking through it, looking where you agree, where you disagree, and understanding why. But you just said it, Naomi, all of us could improve right now by the simple act of journaling because it creates more self-awareness. Why was I upset when my spouse did this? Why was I upset with my coworkers? Why was I upset about whatever the thing is that continues to trigger you? And then you can sort of trace it down and discover what the roots really are for you. I've seen it change people's lives. I had one person who is in the EQ Project program with me. They become a coach and a specialist. And she said her biggest takeaway was hope.
Wow.
She said, ever since I started working with emotional intelligence, she goes, I thought it was going to be other things. She goes, my number one takeaway is hope, that I have the power within me to be, do, or have anything I want, and I can really change. And I was sobbing. We're on a Zoom call in a group, and I was actually sobbing when she said, my number one takeaway is hope.
Like we say in that like there should not be despair in the world. So like, in other words, hope, just like having the hope. And what I like about that when they take the step with you, it's not just having the hope, it's also taking action. So you can manage them better. And you know what? I really believe that everyone watching this now owe it to themselves. And if you don't do it for your own sake, like some people will not cook for themselves, but they will cook for others. Then do it by all means for the purpose of your environment, of your relationship, of your kids, and you know what? To serve God. Think about it, even if you think in the Bible, right? When King David was cursed and he said, no, it's from God, right? Like, so he knew how to manage his emotion. He could at that moment just kill the person, right?
Oh my God, that's so good.
Right? So right? So we must learn to manage. We owe it to ourselves and to society. Imagine like how beautiful the world will look, like people, how they care and they want to do something for the community. We are like serving mission-driven entrepreneur and stuff. This is always start with you. It always starts with you. If you want to serve better, you want to manage your emotion, right? So you'll shine your light even further.
Oh my gosh, you are speaking directly to my heart on that one, because we all look around the world that we live in right now. And some days it looks pretty scary. It looks like we're just divided. It looks like we're disconnected. And the best way, you just said it, Naomi, the best way we can serve the world, the best way we can serve God, when people are looking at the world and wondering, why are things the way they are? It's because we're disconnected from ourselves first. the best way I can connect to you, Naomi, the best way I can serve my community and God is to reconnect to myself. Because when I do that, I bring the best of myself forward. And if we saw more of that, the world would look a little different.
I 100 absolutely what you just said. It's crazy good. And you know what, like we feel it in your heart and soul that you are here to like on your mission. You know, you want to save one person at a time and save the world. And
our country, our world, our kids, our communities are counting on that. We can know we're at a tipping point. We're at a real tipping point. And it's not because you and I don't see eye to eye. It's the way we are at the heart of emotional intelligence. It's the way we handle ourselves and the way we handle other people. It's okay to disagree. It's okay, but it's all in how we handle ourselves. And that's what we can pull the best of that forward when we up level our emotional intelligence.
Wow, Regina, you're like killing it. It's like it's bring me all the stories in my life, like, you know, like we had like someone, and then one person of the guests was talking more about religion, and that person is more atheist or something. He was leaving the house, you know, or things like that, like so impulsive, right? Or like talking, and how we make a global peace if we cannot even sit and have a conversation? You know what I mean?
That is what is so important about what you just said. If I want to see peace, if I want to see better leadership, it starts with myself. And Naomi, if you and I disagree on vaccines, on masks, on politics, that's okay. It's the emotionally intelligent person really is so aware of themselves, so connected to themselves that they are not bothered by someone who disagrees with them. They welcome that because that's how God designed us, not to be the same. And so that's really the pathway to the better life. And just like you said earlier, I'm not doing it just for myself. When I raise up, when I shine brighter, I allow everybody around me to do the same. So
wow, amazing. So before we like almost finishing, I know you're you're a busy girl. So first of all, like how can they take the assessment? How can they connect with you? So,
great question. If you go to my website, which is just my name, reginabryan.com. That may be the easiest way because I have a link on my website that I've checked, and you can get in touch with me there and you can find out more information about the assessment, as well as Facebook friend me. I know I've gotten a lot of new friend requests because of EQ and people having questions, and that's so awesome. So my name is Regina Scott Bryan on Facebook, and I would love to connect with you, as well as Regina Bryan on LinkedIn. So yeah, it would be amazing to have more people in the EQ community.
I'm telling you, and I really want to encourage everyone, at least take the assessment test. You know, it's not even expensive. And you would get also like the option to even sit with Regina and go over it. So you can start to like the awareness and then manage it. And even if you fall in love with it and you go like, because you would feel a shift. And if you love it, you can even, you know, learn from her how to teach it. So there's so many options there that like everybody should take it. And so we were like, let's like give them like maybe 2 more tips. So like we said, journalizing it. Meanwhile, journalizing, see the triggers, pay attention. Like you mentioned also the awareness, right? Like, you know, when you are like going through something, right? Through this emotional chaos, like catch yourself and see what's going on, right? Like don't like kind of like blame the other person. Oh, he's thinking different than me. And like, what can we like say? One more thing for them to become more proactive, because that's our journey on this world, to become more and more proactive.
Absolutely. So just as you mentioned, the journaling would be a step, but the pausing. And this is really, I mean, again, people are very quick to dismiss things that are simple. And I think that's why we are where we are. This is not complicated at all. We're talking back to basics. When I get triggered, what do? If I train myself, if I begin to build the habit of the pause, just 6 seconds, 10 seconds, train myself, get up every morning and look myself in the mirror before I have to confront my family or my colleagues and coworkers and say, today I pause.
Wow, I love it.
Because I don't want to go to sleep at night, Naomi, and think that somebody else has more control over me than I have over me. And the minute that I allow other people to trigger me on a regular basis, then other people have more control over me than I have over me. And that's a sad thought to most of us. So the journaling, I think pausing,
And the
those are
awareness.
really big. That delivers the awareness, that journaling and being able to stop yourself in your tracks. That is
Yeah,
where the awareness happens. That's where the insight, that moment of choice.
right.
If we all think that we have the freedom to choose and we all want to be in charge of ourselves, you don't control me, I control me. Perfect. Show us. Because
Exactly.
it's in the daily actions, that's where the rubber meets the road. Like you said, it's not just knowing it, it's applying it. And the good news
Amazing.
for us is we get about 1,000 opportunities a day to apply it.
And people model what we do, not what we say, right? So like if your child, like as a parent or anyone at work, like managing people, if you say one thing, but you act and behave impulsively and out of control, that's the message you give, not like your wording. So I really want to encourage, so as we saw, journalizing, but not just journalizing, it's passively, but like look at the awareness, learn from that. And then when you catch yourself doing something, stop first, pause, and kind of like go back and look at it and take the
Yeah.
assessment. There's no reason for you not to take this assessment. And if you take it, you might as well take it with Regina, the best expert on emotional, right?
Because
On
then
emotional
you get to,
intelligence.
and just like you said, Naomi, then you get to be in a group debrief and you get to learn from me going through the assessment and the comments and the question of others. I've been on some group debriefs where I've had like, 3 or 4 major takeaways just from delivering the information, and then I let other people ask their questions. It's been so powerful. And let me say this one last thing is, for most of us, we're very dismissive of the idea of accountability partners and coaches. But if you look at the best of the best in the world, whether it's CEOs, entertainers, and athletes, they all have coaches. There's not an athlete around, and those guys are paid the big money. That they all have a coach. Are the top CEOs in this country, the top executives have coaches. You deserve a coach. You deserve an accountability partner, because here's the painful truth. If you could have done it by yourself, you would have already done it. Most of us are not meant to walk this alone. So join me, join us in the EQ Project. I have a mastermind group starting soon, coaching programs this fall and early 2023. Let's just change our lives. Let's change the world by changing our lives.
Amen, amen, amen. Wow, Regina, thank you so much for willing to come and share your wisdom and make the world a better place for all of us. And, like taking any journey with you, it's going to be fascinating, amazing. And as you said, like a big shift and hope in their life and their life of the people that impact by them. And we are all about mission-driven leadership. So lead yourself so you can lead others.
Thank you, Naomi, for the work that you and Rami do in the world through NLP. I'm excited to learn from you guys early next year. You guys are a blessing, and I appreciate not only the opportunity to be with you, I appreciate your friendship and all that I've already learned from you.
I love you, Regina.
Love you too.
And I will see you all in there. What do you call it? The assessment and what do you call it? The mastermind?
A mastermind, group coaching, lots of great things. Go to my website, reginabryan.com.
And Bryan with Y.
Right. Just
Because
like
you are
my
gonna
name, B-R-Y-A-N.
right, B-R-Y, because you're gonna ask why am I triggered, so you can learn from that.
You are good with words. I love you, Naomi.
Okay, everyone, we are waiting to hear from you. DM Regina.
Yes. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Regina, so much.
Thank you.